Say what you want about him, but Diego Pavia is a star, and his appearance at SEC Media Day proves that. Here we go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, yo, welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy part of your day. Shout out to you everydayers. I just want to remind you guys we're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, SEC Media Day is in full force today, day one. And it did not disappoint, from Les Miles to Shane Beamer to Lane Kiffin to rumors of Nick Saban. And of course, Vanderbilt, it was Vanderbilt's turn. They shut the thing down. They were the last to go. This is what I mean. And, you know, I think, honestly, they did a really, really good job. And, you know, we're going to reflect on that. And before I get too far into it, because I certainly wanted to discuss the Pavia Factor, because it's a real thing. I mean, it was like a member of the Beatles was walking through the College Football Hall of Fame today. And but I want to shout out our other players, man. I want to shout out Randon, Fontenette. I want to shout out Martel, Hight. They did a phenomenal job. And unfortunately, it was overshadowed a little bit by Diego Pavia. But if you were able to listen to what and hear what they had to say, they said a lot of great things, and we're going to talk about that throughout the course of the week, man. We've got a lot of time to discuss all of what unfolded at SEC Media Days. It was packed full of information, so we got plenty of time to discuss it. But I just wanted to shout out those guys, and of course, Clark Lea did a phenomenal job as well. You know, he's always professional, insightful, you know, and just kind of just brings that confidence, and you know, he exudes the confidence that I think he's trying to show, and it's a different aura with him, and it's a different aura with all of these guys, and that's what the exciting thing is about. That's what we're talking about here when we talk about our appearance at Media Days. Like last year, it was everyone trying to prove something. Hey, we're trying to prove, hey, we're not terrible. We're not the 2-10 team. We've overhauled everything. You know, you should believe in us. And people were just like, yeah, right. Yeah, okay, we'll believe it. Yeah, okay, Vandy. All right. Yeah, Vandy. Okay, blah, 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 blah. You know, it was that number, right? It was like, okay, didn't really believe. And then, you know, Vandy went out, and as Clark Lea said, the proof is in the concept, right? And they went out and did it. Won 7 games, biggest turnaround. Clark Lea, SEC Coach of the Year. And here we are. They're walking in and going, see? Now, in order to stay like that, now they're just now they're just trying to find out, you know, how to stay in that way and be sustainable and things like that. And they're talking about their process of repeating and learning from their mistakes and building on what they did well. So all in all, man, it was a great appearance, great representation for Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia was outstanding, right? And the Pavia Factor is real. It is absolutely a real thing. And people are like, God, yeah, he's just a blowhard. He's just he's just a guy that spouts off at the mouth and talks in nothing but WWE style promos and things like that. But this appearance, I think, and I don't know if he's had some coaching. He probably has. I don't know if people have gotten to him. The message isn't any different. He's not saying anything different. He's never once walked back what he said on Bussin' with the Boys. He was just a little more professional about it. And I think he wanted to make sure he included his teammates in this one as well, which I think if you listen to enough of his interviews and enough of his appearances, he does shout out his teammates a lot. He said on Bussin' with the Boys, we've got everything to be successful. He always said we. And when he talked about mistakes, and he took ownership of some things. And it started with his appearance on SEC Now. I mean, he was great there, showed off his suit. I mean, the guy's a star. He is an absolute rock star. You know, as soon as he walks in the room, everyone swarms around him. Everyone wants to get a word with him. They want to meet him. They want to see him in person. They just want to be a part of that. They just want to experience the Pavia Factor. And it was very apparent. And this was probably the most sought after Vanderbilt player in SEC Media Days history. Right? There's been no other Vandy player that's gotten that type of response. It's usually the smallest crowd of the day. That's when it's like everybody goes and it's like, okay, it's Clark Lea and Vanderbilt. I'm gonna go back to the room and I'm gonna take a nap, man. I'm hungover from last night. That's the time to do it, right? Not this year, and not with Diego Pavia, because you're gonna miss a soundbite, you're gonna miss a story, you're gonna miss something, because he's got something to say. And Clark Lea again had a chance, and his appearances, all of his press conferences, appearances with different shows and interviews and things that he did, every chance he got to walk back on what Diego Pavia said and how he said it and how he's behaving, he didn't. He kept saying, I encourage it because I want him to be him. And that is outstanding. That's amazing leadership right there. You want your guy to be himself. You don't want him to be subdued. Of course, you don't want him to do anything stupid. Okay, that goes without saying. That's obvious. But you want him to be himself. And Clark Lea was just raving about Diego. Like, he said there's a difference between guys who handle adversity well and don't, but act like they do, and act like they're passionate, and act like they're super competitive, which is a masking term for immature and crashing out on the sidelines when things aren't going well. And they think crashing out on their teammate, the person who thinks crashing out on their teammates is leadership. And Diego Pavia doesn't really do that. He's intense. He's hyper competitive, but he's always trying to get those guys up. He's always trying to, motivate his teammates, and Clark Lea made note of that. But one of the quotes that really kind of, as I was kind of digging through this material and consuming all of this stuff, there's a lot of things that Diego Pavia said. A lot of things he said. But this one kind of sums up who he is and what he means to this team and the spirit of this Vanderbilt football team. And a lot of people are going to see this quote and go, that's delusional. I know I know that for a fact, but they really believe it, and they went out and did something about it. This offseason, their training, the way they train, the way they act, the way they believe. Diego Pavia's like, dude, I truly believe this stuff, and this is what he truly believes. The mission ain't finished. We want to win a national championship. That sums up Diego Pavia in a nutshell. This is what he's all about. Just look at what's around him. Like, this looks like Super Bowl media days. There's just people all around him. Usually, if that's a Vanderbilt player pictured right there, you don't see all those people around him. It's usually a handful of local beat writers and people that really just are trying to cover every single team at SEC media days. But the mission ain't finished. We want to win a national championship. He said 7-6 ain't good enough. I wanted to come back to win a championship. And that's why he came back, and that's why he didn't transfer. He believes in this team. He believes in this group, and he believes in what Coach Lee, Coach Kill, Coach Beck are doing. And that's worth its weight in gold. But, his charisma, everything about him was just shouted, star, leader, all that stuff. And that's why I think when you sit here and wonder how guys follow him, or like if you're at all surprised at how things go around him and why people follow him, just watch his appearance here. This is why people follow him, right? On SEC Now, he talked about Eli Stowers as a teammate. He goes, man, I never played with a first rounder before. Man, me and Eli, we're boys, man. We go, he's been my safety net, and, he's been great. He's going to be a first rounder, surefire. And that guy's been incredible. He's the spiritual leader of the team, right? He gets everyone, and he is, Eli Stowers is kind of also another glue guy, and also happens to be an extremely talented tight end. So I'm all for it. I'm here, man. I'm here for the ride, dude. I think it's, I think this should give you confidence, because he shows true leadership maturity in not cutting a WWE promo every single time he walks out, but he still says the same thing. It's the same message, but he understands where he's at, right? He's not on Bussin' with the Boys. On Bussin' with the Boys, you can cut a promo. That's the audience. He understands. He's intelligent. He's got EQ and IQ, and he understands where he's at. And it's the same message, the same exact message. We're here to win. We have a loaded roster. We're going to do it. And he took ownership of it. And he took ownership of his mistakes. He took ownership for the Texas game. He, talking about his interceptions. Yeah, if I threw 2 interceptions against Texas, we probably, if I don't throw those 2 interceptions, we probably win that game. He took ownership of falling apart physically down the stretch. He said, "Hey, I fell apart. I got banged up in the Kentucky game and had an injury that I couldn't really shake. I'm working with the trainers. I'm working with Coach Steiner on being able to sustain." And so what does all this mean? Like, how is so he's a star, right? He's a star in the media. He's a star at SEC Media Days. Everybody wants to talk to him. Everybody wants a word with him. Everybody wants to be around him. But how does that translate onto the field? How does he how does he build on his success on the field? What are the things that he's doing and saying that leads you to believe that he's actually going to improve? Because defenses have the book on him. What's he saying? What's he doing? What's going to happen in order to prove that he is going to be better and still unstoppable and still make plays? What's that? We're going to talk about it next, though. Game time. Don't you wish you were at Home Run Derby? Well, also, this is Music City, so there's a lot of concerts around. And so we've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale and only lose your spot for a show that you've been dying to see, like Oasis. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. So Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you save 60% off with killer last-minute deals. So are you tired of all the endless scrolling to find the best deal? Well, Game Time Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your seat view will actually look like before you buy? Well, in the app, guess what? You get to see it. It's a panoramic seat view, so there is absolutely no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no hidden fees. So also, if you're one of those people that happens to be worried if plans change, don't worry. The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and much, much more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets or Home Run Derby tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDOCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, shout out to you everydayers. If you're an everydayer, thank you. And Randon, Fontenette, if you're listening to this before you get your workout in tomorrow morning, if you're listening to this, you did a phenomenal job. Martel, Hight, if you're listening to this, you did a phenomenal job. If you're not, hopefully somebody will tell you on my behalf. But I thought the whole team did a great job. If you need a second listen, if you want to check out what's going on SEC Media Days, this is a busy week. Locked On SEC's place to go. Chris Gordy has all the coverage from SEC Media Days, from all the coaches, all the headlines, everything. And, of course, the respective teams that are represented will have that coverage as well. We have a few Locked On hosts that are representing the network down there in Atlanta. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances, I could not attend this year, but hopefully next year it'll be a home game for us, and I'll be able to attend and be able to take part in the craziness that is SEC Media Day. So, yeah, you can, like, if you check out Locked On SEC, you get to figure out if Nick Saban's coming back. Where's he going? He's going to Mississippi State. That's where he's going. Nick Saban to Mississippi State. That's his next job. Ms. Terry said, the last time we were in Starkville, I loved it. I've got a collection of cowbells already. She is ready to roll. She said there's nothing like Starkville on a Saturday night. So they're going. Nick Saban is definitely going to Mississippi State. I'm joking, right? That would be crazy if he actually did that. Anyway, the Pavia Factor, guys, it is a real thing. And again, I think when you have certain kind of stars that show up, right? You have the stars that kind of try to circle everything back to themselves. They bring. It's a talent. They bring every question back to themselves. They could ask about a teammate and they'll somehow bring it back to be able to talk about themselves. Diego Pavia, not so much. Diego Pavia, he kept hammering the goal. We want to win championships. Eli Stowers is a first rounder. This team is insanely loaded. I'm looking forward to playing with the guys. I'm looking forward to, he kept doing all that. So he showed that he's a true, I believe it, with all the bravado, all the confidence, all the arrogance, all the whatever you want to call it. It's great. Vanderbilt needs that. If they're going to be good, they need that. And he's giving it to them. So what does he need to do? What's he said? And what does he need to follow through on to be able to be considered a success? Now, with talking season, I think he's winning talking season. That's pretty obvious. So what is he saying? Okay. Well, let's address kind of what went right, what went wrong from last year about Diego Pavia. And this will kind of help. This will kind of help guide our question. So what has been said at media days that leads you to believe that Diego Pavia is going to have a better impact? Well, the first thing is he's got to stay healthy. And there's different ways to go about doing that. And Clark Lea, and it was probably more of what everyone else said. It was probably more of what Clark Lea said that they're going to do to keep Diego Pavia healthy. Diego said he's been training, he's been working with the athletic trainers and the strength and conditioning staff, the training staff. We got to get some new terminology here, but the athletic trainers and the strength people at being able to construct his body and do things that's going to put him in a good position to be healthy. But what Clark Lea said is they're by design. They're going to design the scheme. They've rebuilt the offensive line, so they've done that. They've added personnel. They've bolstered their depth up front, so they're going to have more quality people. Not just on the first string, but in the second string as well. Scheme wise, they're going to try to design ways to be able to do things that are going to protect Pavia, not prevent him from doing what he does best, running with the football, creating and making plays. Obviously, they're going to tell him, hey, be smarter and don't take so many direct shots. That's an obvious. But they're not going to, and the way he said it leads me to believe that they're not shying away from running him. They're not shying away from moving the pocket with him. They're not shying away from doing everything that Diego Pavia did last season to put the team in the success that they had. They're going to be smarter about it. They're going to do more things, and they're going to mix concepts up. They're going to create the offense and create the flow of the play calling to where he's not going to take all these direct shots. He's not going to carry the ball 5 times in a row. They're going to create some open things for him because defenders aren't going to be able to key in on him. They're going to create other weapons so that Diego Pavia can be effective doing what he does, making plays. And so that's one way they're going to keep him healthy. Now, another thing they said that they're trying to, and in order to do that, which I think when Diego Pavia said he has a lot of weapons, he talked about MK Young again. MK Young is going to be a special dude. So that's a weapon right there. They're developing weapons. So I think to be a more explosive offense, if they're going to be in championship conversations, they're going to have to develop a more explosive offense, which means they're going to have to score more points. They're probably going to have to not abandon, but they're probably going to have to walk backwards a little bit on their philosophy of ball control, grind the clock. They're going to have to throw some explosive stuff in there. So that whole identity might shift. It might look different. It's not going to be They're not abandoning it. They're not going to all of a sudden be a Josh Heupel team that snaps the ball every 10 seconds. But they're probably going to go back towards the center of the spectrum on clock management, which means they're probably going to try to get a few more plays off, and they're going to try to get bigger chunk plays and more explosive. So they're going to develop some things into that, and they're going to develop some things that really take advantage of what Diego Pavia is good at. Now, again, staying healthy, doing what he does, right, and just protecting the ball. I think Diego Pavia, one of the things about this is and this is a huge reason why I think Vandy can be successful as well, but like it's continuity, and we're going to talk about continuity. You know, is a healthier Pavia can help, but continuity is a big thing. When you look at other teams too, when you look at teams like Arkansas with Taylon Green, you look at teams like LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, DJ Lagway to a certain degree with Florida, Lenore Sellers with South Carolina, and I think that's it for the teams that have returning quarterbacks. Marcel Reed with Texas A&M. Continuity is key. We're going to talk about what that means for Vanderbilt and why that's a huge factor for Diego Pavia's success and the success of the offense and the overall success of the team. We're going to tie it all together next. Man, you know what they say, time flies when you're having fun. But we're wrapping up the show here. SEC Media Days, I think, was a success. It was a hit for Vanderbilt. It was great. You know, Fontenette, Hight, Coach Lee, Pavia, they all did outstanding. And we're going to talk about it all week. We're going to talk about the different aspects of it, what people said, what I loved about it. I mean, it was a great representation. And, I mean, honestly, you could probably say that for a lot of teams. And you could say, you could say that everyone did well. I don't know how the players did for LSU. I don't know how the players did for South Carolina. I think Lenore Sellers, in his brief appearance on SEC Now that I saw, he did pretty good. Coach Beamer's very charismatic. Brian Kelly, he's just I just don't know about him. But Garrett Nussmeier's he's a seasoned pro, and he's really good behind the microphone. And of course, Lane Kiffin is. He's just built different when it comes to this kind of thing. This is his Super Bowl. So, but real quick, here's what Clark Lea had to say about Diego Pavia. He said this. What else is there to say that hasn't been said? He's held such a profound impact on all aspects of the program. He is the energy source for our program, the whole university, the Nashville community, and college football fans everywhere, right? If that doesn't drive home the point that he is a rock star, an actual rock star that people follow and flock around, I don't know what does. He, at the UFC event, like, who is Diego Pavia? But they flashed him up on TV. He got FaceTime on TV. They only do that for who? Celebrities. Diego Pavia, absolutely. Tony Vitello and Clark Lea, they got FaceTime. Tim Corbin was with Clark Lea. Clark Lea and Tony Vitello were not sitting together, just for the record. But Tim Corbin and Clark Lea got airtime, but not as much as Pavia. But he's a star. He gets invited on Bussin' with the Boys. What college quarterback gets invited on Bussin' with the Boys, right? He made a name for himself with all the NFL guys at tight end U. So there's a lot of things, star factor wise, that he's impacted college football. He's made college football fun to watch. So when you think about this team as a whole, I think Diego Pavia factors into this whole concept because he's part of it. He's part of the continuity. But I think the belief that Vanderbilt is going to be successful this year is the fact that they have continuity. They didn't get rid of anybody on the coaching staff. They added an offensive line coach. Amazing, right? And a very good one too from the FCS level, South Dakota. Anytime you're involved at one of the Dakota schools, you got a good pedigree. Those are good programs. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, North Dakota, South Dakota. All four of those schools are constantly factors and thorns in the sides of everybody else in FCS football. So you only add to your staff, right? You bolster your recruiting staff. You probably made some minor changes behind the scenes with that. You bolster your operation. You get stronger. You evaluate, like the evaluation process of, okay, this is what we did right. This is what we did wrong coming out of 24. You enhanced it. All right. And then we're going to do a whole episode about how about how him and Candace Lee, they bought into NIL. They decided they were going to go all in on that and be competitive. We'll do a whole thing about that. But continuity, I think, is the biggest thing. And starting with Diego Pavia, offensively, you get Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers coming back. Junior Sherrill coming back. You get your coordinator, Tim Beck, coming back for year 2. Jerry Kill is back again, right? You get everyone in the Coach K, Coach Bailey, all the coaches, the entire staff is back for year 2, which means one thing. You got your quarterback back. You got your main play caller back. You got everyone involved in last year's success returning for another year. What does that mean? Well, it means you're going to ball out because you're going to be able to grow. You're going to be able to improve your overall operation of how you run your offense. You're going to be able to add things, nuances, and the new guys are, they're learning it new for the first time anyway, so it makes no difference to them. But the important piece is we're here this spring. They got a dose of it, and they also, the ones that were here last year understand it even better as well. So you're getting a leader that's been involved in it. He's, continuity, and the whole notion that, the saying that I get in the comment section a lot, the saying that I get with people around that talk to me about Vanderbilt football is this. They say, well, Diego Pavia, that was a fun ride, but he's done because the SEC defensive coordinators, they've got books on him now. They understand. They watch film. They understand how to stop him. Well, guess what? Diego Pavia also watches film. Tim Beck also watches film. So to say that defenses are going to improve their plan against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt's not going to do anything but sit on their hands and go, oh, we got Diego Pavia. We don't need to do anything else. That's completely and utterly ridiculous. So Diego Pavia has a year under his belt in this conference. He knows what it takes now. He knows what to do. He knows what aspects to do. And I guarantee you he's involved in the planning process. I guarantee it. Eli Stowers too. They know what to do. They know what plays hurt teams. They know, hell, they ran out of gas down the last in November. That's what they're fighting against right now. That's the number one thing this offseason they're trying to improve on. And he knows what needed to happen against South Carolina. They were getting ready to punch in a touchdown that would have put them ahead of South Carolina, and they had a sack fumble, coughed it back up, and that game South Carolina ran away with it after that. Against Tennessee, you get off to that fast start, you wilt away, right? And you get away from doing what you do best. And that game was just as much of a, war of attrition than anything. So, the fact that you have all of this coming back defensively, you have all this returning production, even though you change coordinators, the system is still the same. The calls are nothing changed as far as terminology. Nothing changed as far as scheme. There might be like a preference to do one coverage versus another or one pressure versus another. Like there might be some really minor changes in how Coach Gregory calls a game versus Coach Lee, but that's it. You have continuity coming back on that side. You have a guy that Coach Lee trusts heavily. So that counts. A lot of starters returning, a lot of experienced guys that were in the system a year ago that didn't necessarily start but are going to be starters. So that kind of sort of counts. But continuity is huge, right? Because all these things factor in. It's called complementary football. Like if the defense is great, Diego Pavia is going to have more chances. And if Diego Pavia is great, the defense is going to be more well rested, which means they're not going to have to, essentially dive into the bullpen, so to speak, if I'm using a baseball analogy, right? What Vanderbilt did often last year was diving into the bullpen defensively. They were rotating early. They had to because they got injuries. It was just kind of a mess towards the end of the year. Most of it was injury related, and some of it was the fact that they still had a gutted roster from the year before. But a lot of that's coming back. And the fact that they have some continuity, and this would be a topic for later on this week, the fact that they've been able to keep a lot of this continuity shows you what they're like as a program. So I think everything's going to be a success. I think Diego Pavia is a star. He showed it, and he's going to continue to show it. And that is a very, very, very good motivating factor, a very good motivational tool for the rest of this team. They feed off of that. They absolutely feed off of that. And that's the best. That's the biggest thing. If the team can feed off of it and have a successful season because of Diego Pavia, I think it's well worth it. And I mean, well worth it. What's it worth, right? He came back for a second year. I think they're going to have a lot of success. And I think they are fighting to get to sustainability. That's the term that Clark Lea used. We want to work towards sustainability. He said a lot about progress and about, hey, if we're not moving forward, if we lose focus, we're cooked, right? And Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers, and the rest of the leadership group, Randon, Fontenette, and Martel, Hight, are in that group as well. They're going to make sure nobody loses focus. So that's something I'm excited about. But like I said, Diego Pavia is a star. Martel Hight's going to be a star. Randon Fontenette's a star. And we've got a group that represented Vanderbilt well. And I think it's a group that's extremely confident. And so a confident football team is a dangerous football team because we know the SEC is good. And you got to be confident. You got to have some swagger. That's going to take you a long way. And they understand what they need to do. And they understand their identity and they understand how they need to play. So until next time, we got a lot of topics to talk about. We got program culture, NIL, Martel Hight. What's Randon Fontenette going to do? What's he going to contribute to this defense down the line? All of this stuff. There's a lot of topics that came up that we can discuss and break down and dive into throughout the course of this week. So you want to stick around the rest of the week because there's a lot of great stuff that we're going to get into. So until then, anchor down, behave yourselves, enjoy the rest of media days. If you're watching Home Run Derby as I record this, hope your guy won. And we'll come at you later. Peace. Anchor down.